Hi, Sachin.
Hey, Dinkar, good morning.
Morning. So, in the last conversation, we kind of looked at generative AI, and we had a look at it from perspective of a product manager,
Yeah,
how I see it, and how some typical use cases may come in. And from the product ideation, the next phase is product development. And I wanted you to tell us some of your thoughts around how generative AI can help in the product development phase of things. So over to you.
sure. And Dinkar, the story pretty much segues into that from where you started. You said there is a research assistant whom you can use to understand about domain, about problem, about potential solution options. It's like brainstorming partner, if you will. Then you can also work with a customer persona, and the customer persona is actually you can get some requirements, you can try to figure out some solution options. It's like research assistant to this. And I think that you also talked about an SME for certain specific use cases. So in programming, so when you are moving to the development side of the things or engineering side of the things, story pretty much continues, to be very honest. And until this time, I didn't create compartmentalization of my skills. So if you think about as an engineering person for life, I organically evolved with more skills. I started with a set of skills and I kept adding more skills as I keep growing in the industry. So I learned about a little bit of requirement gathering, talking to customers, writing formal communication to a level where I can explain some difficult messages, or like when I'm coding, I'm actually asking for questions which are deeply business oriented questions, which I never needed to think about when I was young, or rather I didn't know. It was not about knowing. So all those steps, if you think about it, there are these few personas which evolved within me as a skill. And then one of that is of a typical programmer who actually is nothing but has a set of instructions and can translate that into implementation in coding. Basically, you get set of instructions, you code. And then there is this one other persona who is a proxy business analyst, if you will, whose job is to basically become the mental bridge between the problem statement and the solution, where I am only focused on business requirement. I'm only focused on business problem. I'm only focused on the creating a solution using my engineering capabilities to solve that problem. And there
So,
is this third.
Sachin, is this analogous to epic writing phase in agile development, or is it's a few stages before that?
I think so let's talk about it. I have a visual for this, so let's talk about it, right? So if you think about what are the potential automation levels of software development activities, and here you can use automation and augmentation. But the reason why I used word automation rather than augmentation is basically it is pretty much about this is something which I can offload, and I'm using it from that sense. But the fact that there is some work which is accompanied by AI and some work which I have to do, it is an augmentation. So if you think about it, you will write your epics here in this second phase, in analysis phase. In requirements phase is what you were talking about, the research assistant, customer persona, and all that stuff. But if you think about development, there are like many places where it's a bridge between analysis and development. You never write only code. Between analysis and development, there is also a programmer does analysis on their own, and to understand, okay, what is this epic? What does mean by that? and how do I actually implement this? So there is that implementation analysis phase, which is somewhere hidden in development phase itself. And that is where I have to, as a programmer, understand why business needs to do this. What are the constraints they are trying to talk about? How do I translate that into my code? What is the impact of that onto my implementation and all that stuff, right? So in development as well, there are three personas. One is actual coder. Second is basically business analyst who is trying to understand the domain, the business, and all of those constraints. And the third one is basically sort of architect. And that architect, for lack of better word, is basically rest of the things of engineering, which are not about that implementation, but about a whole system. It's a system view thinking. Example would be is knowing about how this particular piece, which I am developing, goes and fits into the larger ecosystem. What are the security implications? What are the compliance implications? What are the performance implications? How am I going to deploy this? Is it going to solve my constraints which business has asked for, and all that stuff? And these are rarely written on a card that you need to do this. Sometimes it is just implicitly understanding, or sometimes by working with a system for so long. I developed this understanding because we faced an issue 6 months ago, and that created certain changing programming patterns, and we started deploying differently and whatnot. So if you think about these three personas, generative AI has potential to address or be helped in all three and more.
Interesting. Yeah.
The impact, though, is misjudged today as there is the role of the programmer gets diminished by this. If you think about even this programming, like the coder, so if you think about these three coders are actually the coder, the analyst, and the system architect. If you think about these three, the coder's automation goes to, let's say, 90% by using Copilot or something like that. It does not preclude the other two roles to get obsolete. In fact, the importance, if you think about it, if earlier I used to hypothetically spend 30% time across these three roles, now, since the programmer's role is highly augmented, and let's say 80% or 90% of that goes away, best case scenario, right? It is never 100. Best case scenario is 80, 90%. That means the other two roles actually get more attention. And that is where I start feeling is the skills which are system architect skills, or the skills which are of business analysis skills, which are intersecting with the programmer, become highly popular, like highly important. They have to be put in perspective now, so that I start focusing on the business aspect far more, or I start focusing on the system aspect far more.
So as a developer, you are spending less time coding, if I may say that, use that word.
Yes.
And you're spending more time thinking, does the code reflect the outcome? Does it does it reflect the complexity of the business use case? Does it cover as many? So you're now doing more critical and analytical thinking, and whatever is coming out of that thinking, you have more time to spend on those rather than the initial code that needs to be generated. Have I understood it correctly?
Yes. I can give you an example which will ease out people. Is when I started developing Ruby on Rails applications in 2009, before that I used to do struts. And there was no code generator or project generator at that time, which was very common. So what you will do is you will start code by creating a directory, create a source folder, create test folder. There was like
the manual steps of it.
Somebody taught me to do this, right? Yeah. And you go to different companies, different teams, and they will have slight variations of the structure.
Yeah.
But in Rails, it was like Rails new, and then you give your app name, and suddenly 20 files exist with a project structure and everything. And it was like, man, if it is happening, then all these like
all the time I
which
spent creating directory structure.
and it used to be like,
I got an example from someone a day or so ago, and what that person was saying that if you had to change, let's say, name of a function, right? Then you'll have to manually go to many places, do find, replace, all those kind of things. And modern IDEs, right? You change it one place, the whole interface name changes everywhere. So in some way, those who are feeling reluctant to pick up generative AI tools like Copilot, thinking that the purity of coding is going away. If they are using smart IEs, they have already gone on that path, and they shouldn't feel hesitant to go, few miles ahead, given the acceleration it brings it. Is that the right thought process?
The answer is no. That is not how it is. But I'll tell you why I'm saying that. I have seen the both sides. So when I started programming in Java, I started using an IDE called IntelliJ IDEA. And at that time, it supported refactoring, what you are talking about, changing the name of the class, changing the name of the method, or extracting a method out of some base into different function. All these like refactorings were natively supported in the IDE. So I was super used to all these functionality. The trouble started is when we said, okay, I'm going to Rails. And at that time, Ruby on Rails did not have RubyMine, which was JetBrains IDE. But what we moved to is more like basic IDEs like TextMate, Vim, or even later on Sublime Text. Now VS Code replaced everything. That's a completely different story. But what we used to do is we used to like search for a method name and replace it everywhere. Like simple text search, replace. And at that time, we went through this commotion. So one of the negative point of Ruby, we used to talk about, how are you going to do method renaming, refactoring? Because now something might be left out. And the debate used to happen is, but you need to write a lot of test cases so that there is nothing which is missing. And we used to, no, man, I don't know, man. Like there will be so many bugs and whatnot. And I coded for 12 years in Ruby after that. Even I still do. You know what? I have never tripped onto a bug which was introduced by wrong method name refactoring. The fact is that you have all these fears, and I had these fears. I was in the camp in the beginning, and I was reluctant. What I realized is it is because I am so married to my ways of working today that I'm reluctant to. And only thing what I see is that I am doing these 20 things. These out of these 20, 6 are not possible in this new way. And my focus goes on to those 6.
Those 6, yeah.
And I keep talking about, but Dinkar, you know what? Earlier you used to give me this like nicely red-lined PDF, which had all the UI. And now you are telling me you will not give me that. So I have to develop a UI on that. It just doesn't make sense, Dinkar. And that is what we focus on. Whereas you are saying, you know what? The program managers are also evolved. You know what? Instead of giving you perfectly redlined, what if I gave you a prototype HTML itself? Which I have been working on and developing click-throughs to get customer feedback. What if that happened? Then, Dinkar, you will write very bad code. And my natural response is, you'll write so bad code, it is not scalable. I have to rewrite it.
It's not maintainable.
It is not maintainable, Dinkar. And you know that you are not trained to be C++ developer, CSS developer and all that stuff. These are the challenges of mind. Like we holding back on adopting new ways of working.
That reminds me of one developer who said that I was showing him the code and from ChatGPT. He said, "Yeah, it's nice, but it's not formatted the way I usually do. So one of the problems that I will face it in order to read it and validate it, it'll take me a lot of time because it's not the way I write code." And that was his reasoning to not use it. I was wondering, it's probably just a configuration of it. Maybe in next version or in next few days, you can probably pass it, hey, write the code in this format. You pass it the whole file. That reminds me, Sachin, a little digression. When I was in my previous life, when I was working with a startup in video advertising, so we used to work with a lot of agencies, digital agencies in India. And this was around when iPhone was introduced in India.
Yeah.
So I was working with the digital agency that was responsible for Nokia. The iPhone was released, and this very senior exec who was responsible, he had a very happy face and very relaxed. I said, "What happened?" He said, "You know what? It doesn't have SMS forward, and in India, people, and this is early days, right? When SMS forward was the most normal thing. Like you get an SMS, you forward it like crazy, like anything, right? Emails, SMS, now WhatsApp, everything people like to forward. It doesn't have a forward. So in India market, if you have a phone which doesn't have forward, it's going to be it's failing. So I'm happy, my product will do very good. I asked him, this is a, one software feature update away. You just make a small, update in the software and it will allow for forwarding. So are you basing your whole, response to a competition or saying that it doesn't have SMS forward? And we know what happened to that story as a product wise. And the kind of rolling back to this, when people come up with these, look at these 2, 3 things out of 20, and because of these problems, I will not adopt it. Others, my friends will not adopt it. They will not adopt it. What I think a lot of people are missing is that those 2, 3 items are probably very easy to fix in some, or maybe even those 2, 3 things may become irrelevant soon. So this, I really get your point. I really appreciate what you're saying, that a lot of it is in the mind of people rather than actual capability or lack of capability of a tool.
Yeah. For example, when I moved from the different editors, like editor is like a personal thing. I'll tell you, it's a very personal thing, right? Like people,
I got addicted to BB edit. Yeah. For some reason, I just do BB edit. Like my brain doesn't work without it. Yeah.
And that's the reason is because beyond the point, all of your workflow gets like muscle memory.
Yeah.
So you know how to change tabs, you know how to arrange your text in certain fashion, the theming and all that stuff. When you go switch from editor to editor, suddenly all your keyboard shortcuts are gone. You're not familiar with this territory. The font looks different. Your eyes used to go to a certain region and all that stuff. So the curve of adopting different editors is very high.
Sorry to interrupt, one more digression here. I was reading, someone was saying that once in a while you should start writing with your left hand, because because if you're a right-hander, you start writing with it, because it now exercises totally different quote unquote muscles of your brain, the areas of your brain. And that's why you should on regular basis learn new languages. So same thing, the muscle memory, and then you lose the ability to pick up new skills, not Alexa skills but human skills.
Correct. And that's actually going to be the biggest challenge in my mind. And if you see ChatGPT, Generative AI, Copilot, Codium, by the way, right now there are 3 big code editor, like code assistants available.
Can you name them?
Yeah. GitHub Copilot, which is like the most popular one right now. Codium, which is available for free to personal use. And it also has a surprisingly fun feature associated with it, is GPT 3.5 embedded in your editor. So you can actually chat, and please don't cancel that feature. But you can chat about anything not related to only code. You can ask. I asked my
man, I can imagine some program manager, some manager saying like, we don't want to, my team people would be just asking
exactly,
tell me a joke.
Yeah, that's what it is actually capable of now. And the third one, which is Amazon Code Whisper, which is another one. There are a few more which are in the making. I haven't tested. Is Repellent Ghostwriter, which is similar, and five are around the corner. So I imagine in 6 months' time, majority of programmers will be on some sort of coding assistant. If they are not, then that means there is something really specific going on with those teams, and yeah, we need to figure out why. But it is going to be very common.
Sajjan, maybe it's a topic for the next one, but I do want to discuss the copyright, confidentiality of your code, IP protection in the times of these code assistants. Yeah, well, maybe the next
Yeah,
one.
exactly. We can do that. The biggest challenge in that topic is basically our lack of knowledge.
None of us
law.
are lawyers, but we
Yeah.
worked with enough lawyers to hazard a guess at yeah. But we can
Yeah, we
also
can.
talk about it.
Yeah, we can talk about it. The other aspects which are going to be challenging is Dinkar, and I want to address it here, is a lot of people are wondering whether actually programmers are going to become lazy, or they are going to become less valuable.
Mhm.
And to which I have only one question to all these people. If your 90% of your day used to go only in typing code, probably you are done if you are not willing to pick up new skills. But coding is a small portion of your activity.
Exactly.
And major portion of your activity is, let's say, collaborating, debating about implementation styles, getting something done, innovation.
Does this address the business ask?
Exactly.
Is there something I'm missing? Is it scalable? Is it secure? So many questions a good developer asks before they say I'm done. Yeah.
Yes. And if that is what you do, you know what is not typing code, what is not writing documentation, what is not typing test cases, that becomes 10 times more important.
Yeah.
And
the thinking, the
exactly.
deliberation. Yeah.
Exactly. And so it is better that you start focusing on those skills far more compared to just thinking about, hey, so even in product manager, right?
Yeah.
What we are thinking is the stories are written, the scope is being done, research is happening, it knows everything. But Dinkar, you tell me, even today, there are hundreds of product managers we have worked with. How many will be able to come up with a very detailed or thorough implementation of a brand new thing? Handful of us.
Uh, let me hazard a
Yeah.
response here. Yeah. You and I have a job is because the product manager, typical product manager is not able to think of everything.
Right? You're right.
Yeah. That's why we have a job. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is something which is going to continue. It's not that people don't know. It is also that people are not accepting. People see their jobs as a string of or a laundry list of tasks or responsibilities, whereas our responsibilities and tasks are merely means to an end to convert into output. But if you think about it, right, that's why they say, right, is you need to love your job. Once you start loving your job, you never go to work. Yeah. So if people are actually not thinking in terms of activities, but thinking about, like some people are passionate about making furniture. Yeah. When they are constantly thinking about innovative ideas, they are not happy with the chair, and then they keep innovating. Like there are like a million types of chairs today existing in market because somebody loves making chairs. Yeah. It's not a business problem they are trying to solve. Sometimes they are also trying to solve a functional problem. Is like these chairs, that chairs, right? So, and I see that in some places, things are actually so simple, but people just don't have right mindset to it. So automation can can happen and can automate a lot of things. But if you do rudimentary jobs, you are going to get phased out very fast. Whether it is a programmer or a product manager or a QA or a business analyst or even a CEO. But you are doing something which is not rudimentary, which is not very, very mundane related tasks. Those will actually get far more important. So we need to focus on
in the world of LinkedIn, move away from thinking about outputs to thinking about outcomes. That's the language everyone uses on LinkedIn. So
in LinkedIn, actually, whatever they write, right, the glorified story. So I'm pretty sure you also came across that, right? Is like how people write the same event on WhatsApp, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and some other places, right?
Over the weekend, I saw a video on what's wrong with LinkedIn and how they're critics of LinkedIn, how people write this, the stuff they write, right? How they all have the same tone, they have the same language. It's very unnatural, and there are a lot of critics of how people write their updates on LinkedIn, and that made me wonder that am I also following those patterns of how you write, like for example, everyone will write excited to be in this event to listen and share my idea, while as to their friend, and they are probably going, oh dude, I'm talking in this event, I'm going to be on the stage, I'm going to talk about it, right? That's what they're probably talking to their friends, but on LinkedIn they're saying excited to hear about and excited to share. It's kind of that tone that changes with LinkedIn. So yeah.
So Dinkar, the question comes is that if you are not talking in the same tone on Facebook versus LinkedIn, do you consider your workplace as your family?
I don't know. It depends, right? On Facebook, it depends. A lot of people may want not to have their family on their Facebook account. Especially, teenagers a few years back hated when their parents joined Facebook, right? So I think more of the criticism was around, when the tone starts, everyone starts sounding like each other. That's where people worry about it, and that kind of Sachin leads back to one of the things that I heard about criticism about generative AI is because that somehow everyone's code will start looking very similar.
No. See no. that you know what? I recently let me counter that with another stupid argument like that. Sure. Somebody actually put, and the reason why I call it stupid is I'll tell you in a minute. The thing is that somebody put an analysis of how much water is getting, like we are wasting water, or water is being used in data centers to support generative AI related activities like ChatGPT and OpenAI.
Like cooling and all.
Okay. And like nobody actually put that number for Instagram. Or like mindless watching videos on TikTok. Nobody did that, right? See, when
or having hundreds of tabs open on your browser.
Right? So the point is, when did you actually read 1,000 people's code? I'm pretty sure nobody actually, these are all ways of working change arguments, Dinkar. If we started addressing each of them, we will actually waste time.
It'll be asymptotic curve. We'll never reach 100% done. Right? There will always be some, yeah.
I would actually challenge with that response. Okay, so what? Is it achieving the business outcome? Are you able to book the tickets? Even if it, let's say, hypothetically, I don't know. Because I haven't done study that whether today, see, when 100 people, there are like many times I have gone on to Stack Overflow, you know what, which code snippet I pick, which has the maximum upvotes. That means anybody
already, Stack Overflow has already ensured that 90% of the code is
similar, right? So I have actually picked it up and then took it there. So what are you arguing about? Like, and even if it is true, let's say that's everybody's code. First of all, it doesn't happen, but let's say it happens. So how does it matter?
Yeah.
But these are all symptoms of people reluctant
resistance to this. Yeah. Sachin, there's one more. I've heard from developers is that uh, you cannot assume that the code that has been generated is correct. So we need to review it, right? And now I've heard this hypothesis from others, and I know you also talk about it. So the people who will thrive in this world are people who have a lot of programming experience, because they can review codes. Code reviewers who have that kind of practice and those muscles will be very productive, because they're seeing something, they're reviewing something, they're moving fast. Or people who have very good prompt skills, product managers, BAs, now they have become developers, and they will partner with someone. So now in the new world, you got programmers with a lot of experience, or post-technical developers also thriving a lot. But in order for a fresher to reach that stage, they may not have that opportunity, because the work that they were doing, which was giving that experience, has now been automated. Have you heard of this argument? What are your thoughts about this affecting the world of development?
You're right. I did say that, and I still stand by that opinion. Is the skill of ability to review code fast and identify nuances of it is going to be important. For young developers who have actually not gone through that, it is going to be a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
But Dinkar, there are two things which are on their side. And I see there are two ways in which this problem can be solved. One is tooling. You could actually develop a sophisticated tooling around this generation, and you can quickly highlight the mistakes of the code itself using generative AI. Simply, right? You generate code and it says this is not something which is matching right. It's like our if you think about our
so along
brain,
with
right?
all the static code analysis tool, there is now one more analysis tool in our tool.
Yeah, why not, right?
Yeah.
And the second one is basically the young chaps who are actually going through now schooling or college, and they are learning to program. This is the only way they will know. It is like my daughter does not know how to dial the number using rotary phone.
Yeah.
And that never stopped her to talk to people.
Call someone. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So
they may not have learned the patience of dialing 10-digit.
Forget about that.
Numbers.
Dinkar, first time ever in my life, I picked up a cell phone in my hand, and somebody told me you have to press the button on. Okay. So not on. You have to just dial the number. It was not habit for me. I was searching for dial tone. It's like that's right.
And many times people used to put it face down. So many times my mom, and in fact probably I have also done it, put the cell phone face down so it'll get disconnected. In the
correct. So see, these are the things which are skills which we need to get rid of.
Yeah.
So and you will and these kids did never listen to dial tone, so that is not a skill which they know.
Yeah.
How to listen to dial tone, right? So they will get into this augmented coding capability fast.
Yeah.
And
so we used to have those books, right? Handbooks, Learn Java, and they used to have a lot of codes in it. Now that book has become probably generative AI tool like ChatGPT. They'll say, how do I write this function? And they type this function, you copy, you try it, and then you tweak it, you learn from it. We used to do that with the books. We used to type that piece of code. Now probably it's being generated and it's easy to copy paste. Books used to come with CDs.
Yeah. And then I know that we have ran over time, but Dinkar, another thing is that you have a daughter and I have a daughter. Yesterday, as it happens, Sal Khan from Khan Academy gave a TED talk, and he showed a new chat assistant for students who is actually AI-based assistant. And you know what he claimed? He claimed a research from I think 90s about if you give each student personal assistant, personal coach, tutor, he used the word tutor, the average intelligence of these kids will go up by 2 sigmas in a bell curve.
Wow. Yeah.
And what he was demonstrating was amazing, is that how you can actually like keep having a dialogue with the tutor in the context of a problem. And this is going to be on Khan Academy. I am just feeling that if my daughter is learning and using this assistant from her 10 years age, just imagine they will never have this problem because they have been used to work with these tools for so long.
Sachin, you won't believe my 8-year-old how she interacts with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm thinking prompt, I'm thinking set up the background, I'm thinking this and that. She's been using Siri and Alexa, and for her this interface is very natural. And it's almost it's for her, and I'm the dinosaur who has to learn new skill, but they're just catching up on it. People have been talking to Siri to do random stuff, and her latest thing is trying those hacks where you ask Siri and Alexa to talk to each other, right? I think Siri and Alexa have done something to their algorithm. They figure out that someone is trying to put us into an endless loop of talking to each other. They now quickly back off when they detect something like that is happening. But that's the interface kids are.
You're right.
Yeah.
So to sum up, I would say the story continues from product management to engineering. There are like a lot of tools available. There are a lot of activities to automate. But I would request all these engineers to start thinking about skills which are not today augmented, and then focus on those skills far more than the skills which are like easily augmented today. And start.
Can you bring back your graphic?
Sure.
Yeah. So the automation potential is definitely automation using generative AI tools. And essentially what you're saying is that requirements is an area where there's a lot of assistance that can be drawn. A kind of little less in analysis, a lot of human intelligence questions, 5 while, a lot of question to be thought of, angles, and so probably drops their development really shoots up a lot, because the coding or the manual part of it is taken care of, and rest is those intelligence and understanding thing. Similar with the testing also, and you and I have maybe at some point we should introduce it to everyone. We're working on a asset within ThoughtWorks where we are trying to use this testing through generative AI and other AI tools.
Yeah.
And then the deployment goes down because deployment is again,
anyway, the modern deployment is very much containerized,
anyway, code driven,
or packaged. So you need to develop only once, and after that it just follows.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not very. It doesn't change with every story. So this is great, Sachin. I think we digressed a lot. We covered a lot of spaces, but I think it was very important to discuss things we are hearing from other developers, and I think the summary is this is a paradigm shift that we're living through. It's a pivotal moment that we're living through. Things are going to change, and we should be we should observe ourselves where our reactions are resistance to change, resistance to new ways of working. Is a great opportunity for us to learn a lot of new things, start writing with left hand, and develop new sort of thinking capabilities. And there's not end of the world. New skills will be needed. New skills will be learned, and the next generation will do something much more better than what we have done. They'll create something more awesome than what we have created. And as I say, like, no one is losing jobs, but people have to study more.
Yeah, people will lose jobs if they don't study.
Yeah, which is true anyway, especially if you're a doctor or those kind of professions, right? Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Dinkar.
Take care. Bye-bye.